Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and we are continuing our coverage of Joker War. We are on part 4, I think it is. I think it's part 4. We're continuing the Joker War. So in the last videos that we did, Batman had basically been exposed to a kind of new version of the Joker toxin that was created in large part through a combined effort of the Joker and his new sidekick Punchline. But the nature of this Joker toxin was that it was exceedingly potent, far stronger than really any version that we'd seen before. And it was enough to put Batman in a pretty deep sleep, right? A pretty deep trance, at least strong enough to allow Joker to kind of make his move and have Batman off the board. Now, Harley Quinn did come to the rescue insofar as she was able to get Batman out of harm's way, but she had fed him a kind of concoction that would help him to overcome the serum in his body and then bring him back, right? So he could kind of go back and do his Batman thing. But what this does is this starts up in the mind of Bruce Wayne himself. And it's almost kind of a throwback to some old memories, right? In the sense that he's kind of talking to Alfred and talking about like the nature of the Batarangs, in the sense that he made him a little more streamlined to be basically like shurikens, but simply just, you know, like ninja stars more or less, but just a different look, a different design. And it's kind of this interesting scenario because it seems to be in the early days of when they were still working with Lucius Fox, but before Lucius Fox knew that he was Batman. And so he kind of talks about how like they might have to let Lucius in on what's going on because you'll see his work on the streets, that kind of thing. He also talks about how he has a utility belt, and he was like, by the end of all this, right, the bat suit's just going to be like one big utility belt. I want to see that. I want to see like a bat suit that's just nothing but pockets. But one of the things that Alfred hits at is that there's still a part of Batman that believes that like he can save the day, right? That he's full of optimism, right? That he's desperate to believe he can be like the perfect Batman. Now, this is an important thing to understand is because Alfred has kind of been a voice that Bruce Wayne's been hearing ever since he was exposed to the toxin, even when he was awake and he was still struggling. The nature of hearing Alfred's voice was a way for him to kind of focus the toxin into a singular point to where it could still do its job, but it wouldn't really impact how he was able to perform. Eventually, it just became too much, right? And between fatigue and the toxin itself, he ended up kind of succumbing to it completely. But this is again all kind of a hallucination, you know, with regards to Alfred. And it's one of the things that he says that you know, where Batman realizes like, you're not real, right? You're dead. Harley Quinn gave me some tea to overcome this. You know, Alfred kind of gives him this perspective and says like, you have a rare gift that not many people who can affect change have, which is to say you're able to use this moment to kind of survey what's going on in your city from a bird's eye view. Now, it doesn't mean literally. It simply means that this is granting Batman a reprieve. It gives him a chance to kind of look at the bigger picture, see everything that's happening, and decide what his worth is with, you know, with the city of Gotham, the various heroes who were there, all that kind of stuff. And so while he's unconscious, of course, Harley Quinn tending to him is suddenly met by the arrival of Punchline, using this as kind of a chance to basically take out Bruce Wayne, right? To take out Harley and to take out Bruce Wayne. And so with that being the case, we sit back down with Batman and Alfred. And the funny thing is that the whole scenario with Harley Quinn and Punchline is actually going to become a little bit of a background thing here. It'll be relatively even, but I think the main brunt of this is really Bruce Wayne himself. And Alfred fixes it some tea, right? He says, if we're going to have tea, we're going to do it properly, right? And so he basically makes him a Darjeeling blend. And this is a tea that Alfred served to Bruce Wayne whenever he was stressed, whenever he was frightened, whenever he was the most disturbed from a case that he was working on. This seemed to be especially important during the early days of the Joker because the Joker's crimes were so heinous. And the significance of this tea, as it's explained here, is that it was Alfred's way of telling Batman everything's going to be okay. That Bruce Wayne was too stubborn and really he made himself too hard of a person in a lot of ways to really accept Alfred coming to him, putting his hand on his shoulder and saying, everything's going to be okay, Master Bruce. And Bruce Wayne accepting it and saying, yeah, you know, and being comforted by it. He was on the inside. He just wouldn't really allow himself to show it. And so Alfred wouldn't really tell him everything was going to be okay in so many words. Instead, he would make him this tea. And it was a kind of unspoken conversation between the two, which is cool because it's designed to show the closeness between Alfred and Bruce, right? Alfred was a father figure, you know, in a lot of ways, in almost every important way. And so, you know, he kind of asks Bruce Wayne, like, tell me what's happening, right? Tell me, how bad is all of this? And the response of Batman is that the Joker's using all of his money to tie up the legal system, to keep Joker's gangs on the streets. He's terrorizing people. He's literally taking people out, right? He's taken the entire family fortune, the Wayne Manor, Wayne Enterprises. He had Lucian Fox basically modify vehicles into deadly contraptions and so on, right? Like he's essentially conquered Gotham, and all of it's been paid for by the Wayne Foundation. So the Bruce Wayne Foundation, or really just the Wayne Foundation itself, which was designed and serves the purpose of protecting and making Gotham a better place, is now being used to tear it to the ground. And it's an important thing because Alfred kind of comments like, you've seen this from the beginning, right? You know the nature of the Joker from the beginning. The nature of the Joker is he's cold, he's disconnected, right? He mocks everything that people love. He mocks family, he mocks relationships, all that kind of stuff, and he pulls his allies closest to him as a mockery of that, right? You have Robin, he's got Harley Quinn, and Harley Quinn is designed to be a mockery, right? You treat Robin as a kind of son. Dick Grayson was a surrogate son, Tim Drake, Jason Todd, Damian Wayne was a biological son, but you see your Robins as children, and you take care of them that way. You make sure that they become strong, capable. You raise them to become productive members of society. You teach them right from wrong if they don't know. This is the kind of role that you play. Joker abuses his sidekicks, right? He treats them terribly. He makes life rough for them. He puts them in situations that could very well cost them their lives. He's a mockery to everything that you believe. But there's one massive difference between you and him. For the Joker, taking one life is no different than taking a million if it means he can get to you. But this is different for you. You value the sanctity of life. You understand the importance of family and friends. These things are relevant to you. And so you end up switching back to Harley and Punchline. And the fight between these two is pretty straightforward, right? Punchline's got like a flamethrower. She's just like, torching this whole place. And Harley Quinn's like shooting the place up, right? And for the most part, it's kind of round two, but there is a cool discussion here between these two characters. Harley Quinn sees Punchline as kind of a continuation of herself, right? In the sense that there's a little bit of a conversation that goes on, where you have Punchline kind of, fighting against Harley. She makes a comment about the nature of Harley, right? That Harley thinks she's somebody special, that she thinks she was somebody unique, but she's not. That in the end, like the story of Harley is just kind of this boring, mundane, uninspiring story, right? Like Harley Quinn was this young girl, who thought she was destined to do something great with her life, and then she wanted to do something great for people. She wanted to help people and so on. And so she ended up getting a job working in Arkham Asylum, and she met the Joker, and the Joker swindled her. He tricked her. He convinced her he was a sensitive guy. She got caught up in the whole thing. She ended up becoming a sidekick and then basically ended up leaving, right? What she kind of tells Harley is like, you're a basic Becky. There's nothing interesting about you, right? You're not intriguing. You're just some girl who got her heart broken by a crazy guy. And now that you left, you think you're somehow cut from a different cloth. Like, no, you're basic. There's nothing intriguing about you. She's like, I, on the other hand, I saw the world for what it was, right? The world was going crazy and people were pretending like it wasn't. The world was falling apart. It was going to pieces. And people were just kind of looking around and saying, no, everything's okay. As if they said it enough times, it would be true. And then she heard the Joker speak. She heard him talk. She heard this guy who was talking about how like the world is crazy and the world was nuts, and the only way to survive it was to be as insane as he was. That he, in a lot of ways, kind of offered this vocalized speech on how Punchline saw the world. And she found herself enamored with it. The funny thing about this is that is the story of Harley Quinn. That's the thing. It's what Punchline doesn't grasp. Her story is the story of Harley Quinn, right? It's being caught up by a different means, but it's being caught up nonetheless. She thinks she's special when she's not. And that's what Harley tries to tell her. Like, I thought the Joker had a heart. You think he has a brain. But at the end of the day, everybody's a means to an end, right? Like the Joker doesn't care about anybody but himself and Batman. That's it. That's the only thing he cares about. He doesn't care about who he has to hurt, who he has to sacrifice, who he has to put in harm's way, as long as it gets him to the bat. What you haven't figured out is that you're not special. Right? Like you think you are, but you're not. You believe that you can change him, or you believe that somehow you're special in this unique way to where only you can truly understand him. Like you're literally just a victim. Like you've got a victim complex, but at some point in time, you're going to come to an understanding of your place in the world. And you're going to realize you're not as special as you think you are. And that's kind of a crazy thing, because it almost seems like what Harley Quinn says impacts Punchline if she thinks it's true, because she's like, you believe you're wrong and I'll prove you're wrong, right? Like I'll show you what the Joker really believes once I kill Batman myself. And that's her mistake, right? That's the obvious instance that she doesn't truly understand the Joker, because if she did, she would know that the Joker doesn't want to kill Batman, right? Like that's not the whole idea. The Joker loves the cat and mouse game. He loves the idea of Batman chasing him. That's what he digs, right? That's his whole shtick. And so if she kills Batman, the Joker's probably going to kill her just out of wrath, just out of anger. And so you switch back to Alfred, you switch back to Bruce Wayne, and one of the things Alfred says here, this is probably one of the most amazing conversations, one of the most amazing things that Alfred brings up, right? He says, you take yourself too seriously, Master Bruce, right? But Batman is a child's dream. You can travel the world and learn every possible way to save everybody. That's a child's perception. Only a child would look at that and think that it's actually possible. But once you get out into the real world, once you learn the limitations of humanity, you realize that you can't do it on your own. But the dream is still possible in the sense that yes, you can save everybody. You just need the help of others to do it. And he says, like, you've spent too much time trying to save my life because you won't accept that I'm dead. You've pushed away the people that remind remind you of that fact. You hold it against Damian Wayne, right? Damian Wayne was the one who went into Gotham during the City of Bane and was, despite being told, if the Bat family enters here, I will kill Alfred. Damian was the one who believed that he could say Alfred. He went into the city. He basically broke the truce. That led to Damian Wayne, once he was captured, seeing Alfred killed right in front of him. Batman holds it against Damian, saying like, if you hadn't gone into Gotham, then he never would have died. You hold it against Dick Grayson because he was shot in the head, so he became Rick Grayson, one of the worst story arcs ever. But like, he became somebody who wasn't Dick Grayson. He wasn't his normal self. You held it against Selina for making you feel like it was never safe for you to come home, that you felt like you couldn't really trust anybody. You hold it against everybody else. But the reality, and this is what Bruce Wayne kind of accepts, he says like, I failed. And that's when Alfred just freaks out and slaps him across the face. And he's like, the story's not over, man. Like, you're Batman, right? You have to accept the world that you live in, and you have to accept what you can control. There are things in Gotham that you can't control. You can't make people be good guys. You can't make people do things differently. The only thing you can control is how you operate as Batman, how you inspire people, but some things are beyond your ability to control here. You have to accept that you did not and you cannot save me. You were in a place where you couldn't get to me. You didn't know what Damian did. You didn't know that I was being held by Bane, and you didn't know that he was going to kill me. So you can't hold yourself for that. You can't say like, it's my fault that Alfred died. You didn't know. What could you have possibly done, right? You did not, and you cannot save your parents. You were a little kid. You didn't know that leaving the theater and your father taking that shortcut would lead to them being killed. But even if you tried, what could you have possibly done in the face of a gun at 12 years old? Like, you have to stop holding yourself accountable for these things, right? You can't hold these things against yourself. There's nothing you could have done, but you can save yourself. And in doing so, you can save the lives of so many other people in this city that you love so much. And he says that's what's important. Every life that you save is a victory against death, against the Joker. If you truly want to defeat the Joker, if you truly want to beat him, then be the opposite of what the Joker stands for. If the Joker is death, be life. If the Joker is chaos, be order. Be these things. Be what matters most in this world. And so he tells him, right, like, wake up. You know, where Batman says, like, I don't know if I can do this without you. The response of Alfred is, I'm always here. You've known me your entire life. You don't need me on the other side of a microphone to know what I would tell you. You don't need to hear me tell you that you're doing a great job. You don't need to hear me tell you that I'm proud of you. You know that because you know me, and you know what would make me proud. What would make me proud is seeing you go forward, live your life, save yourself, and make something of the city of Gotham. Batman snaps up, right? Immediately wakes up as soon as Punchline gets to him. Now, let me tell you something, man. This was a girl who was getting a little big for her britches, right? Like, she thought she could take on Batman. You serious? Not a chance, right? Like, Batman wakes up and he's like, okay, so like, this we're playing a different game now. This toxin that was in my system is gone now, right? This toxin is totally out of me, and I'm right back to 100% again. If you want to do this dance, girl, we can do this dance, but understand, I've done this dance with a lot of people, right? And it's like Bane said from The Dark Knight Returns, like shipwrecked men turning to seawater due to uncontrollable thirst. Many have died trying. And so Punchline gets subdued pretty quickly, right? And then after that, it's like, okay, let's take care of this. And so he's like, I need to reactivate my communication systems. Well, the problem with this is that he fried his circuits back when he was at the theater. And then of course we get the most Batman response ever. Don't underestimate what I can fit in this belt. And then he's like, I called the battery, right? It's just kind of like a backup system. And he basically, and Harley Quinn's just like, no, come on, man. Like, you know, it's like, it's like, computer, right? This is Batman. Get me the location of the family. And it's like, which family members do you want? And he's like, I need everybody. Cue to Catwoman, right? Catwoman's like, I gotta go, I gotta bounce, right? So she's part of the Bat family. She gets the message from Batman that Bruce Wayne is back. She goes to leave the hotel, right? The club of the Penguin, right? This kind of places on lockdown while they ride out the whole Joker attack. And she's like, you guys need to come with me. And they're like, why would we leave in the midst of a Joker attack, right? I mean, it's one of these cool things where it's like everybody knows how dangerous the Joker is. And she's like, well, what if I told you that I can make you and Edward Nygma billionaires if you guys come with me? The sound of money, most people will buy into that sound. So with that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.